Good day. Today's segment is how to hire the right people. Who should you be looking for? Usually when we look at vitas, at curriculum vitas, at the biography of a person, what will you find there? You will find that what he has done, he or she has done, the education they've had and the achievement they've reached. Basically, it's all P-oriented vita. It's P-oriented summary of person's accomplishments. And that's really not what we are necessarily the only thing we are looking for. And here is why. We already said that the managerial process is far too complicated for any single individual to perform. And that's why we need a complementary team. And the analogy will be a marriage. Look at the marriage, it's a complementary team. It's very difficult to raise a child, single parent. But the moment we have a complementary team, what's necessarily going to happen? Difficulties in communication, misunderstandings, and a lot of conflict. Why? Because we are different from each other. That conflict can be destructive. It can stymie the organization. It takes all the energy inside. The organization is sick rather than devoting the energy outside. When will that conflict be constructive? If there is mutual trust and respect. When there is mutual trust and respect, then the conflict is not a source of trouble, is not a source of dysfunctional behavior, but is an opportunity to learn from each other, to support each other, to complement each other, and now together we are stronger. Here is a symbol, together is one hand, separately it's a curse. So what is a good manager then? A good manager is a person who commands and grants respect and trust. It's a person you can trust, and it's a person you can respect. Let's start with trust. It's a person you believe that they share your interest. They are not going to take advantage of you the moment you turn your back. You can trust them that your interests are at their heart as well as their own as well. Number one. Then you can trust them. Number two, respect. It's a person who knows how to disagree without being disagreeable. Somebody who, by disagreeing with you, enrich your judgment, enrich your thinking. So you want people who disagree, but they know how to disagree without making you feel defeated or defensive or in a backup behavior. A person that commands and grants mutual trust and respect. But please realize this "and" is not so easy. Because some people command respect, they want respect, and they say, trust me, but they do not grant respect, and they do not trust anybody else. There are other people who trust everyone, quite naive, and they respect everyone, they don't have self-assurances, but they don't command it. Other people do not respect them and do not trust them. You want somebody who commands and grants trust and respect. Basically what I'm saying to you, what makes a good manager is not what he or she does or knows, but it is what he or she is. Because what you know and what you do can easily be replaced, or relatively easily replaced. It's going to become obsolete over time anyway because of change. But this basic ingredient, the capability, the personality trait to grant and command, respect and trust, that is forever. That is not something that changes with change of technology or markets or the weather. What makes a good manager is not what he or she knows or does, but what he or she is. Here it is. It's easier to hire somebody who is and teach him to know than hire somebody who knows and teach him to be.